to India. And while sitting in Kashmir on a mountaintop that was just beautiful, I started crying. And I'm just looking, I just thought, wow, I didn't join the Little League, I was sort of good in sports, I didn't do this or that, I could have done other things that for 10 years, always having little part-time jobs, to save this $2,000, and I'm up here in Kashmir, and it's nice, but it's just too high of a price to pay, and I'm always value-based. Was that worth it, to just ride downtown Chicago and be a messenger boy or do whatever odd jobs? And I just thought, what if I get to Ahmednagar and it's just a nice place? It's nice, people will be nice, you just see things and go, hey, hi. But I just felt then to come back to Chicago and have zero, I don't know if I made the right choice. But after that hug with Eruch and finding that acceptance and then just staying, I was supposed to only be in Ahmednagar for 2 weeks, but I borrowed money to stay there longer because I said, I don't know when's the next time I'm going to be able to come back and share of this love feast. And after that, I could honestly say that I tasted what pricelessness is. That I spent $2,000, it was all I had. If I had 2 million, priceless, it doesn't matter. If you're whatever, Bill Gates, you spend billions of dollars to have that sense of connectedness that I felt. What it connected me was to the root cause that Baba represented and his family, who were still young enough to be mentoring, caring, and just the amount of effort that was put in. Even though we're featuring Eruch, it was actually a family affair of all of these people. It's just that I happen to be more in the tribe of Eruch. I one time got a hat and I told her I lost it because I think Eruch wouldn't have wanted me to wear it. It's one of these mall things that says, I had it made up on the spot, Tribe of Eruch. And I told him about it. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, you're with Baba. I go, but no, of course we're with Baba, we're all with Baba, but this is like this little clan, like the tribes of Israel. I'm in this tribe. He goes, oh yeah, like a clan, then it's okay. So he accepted that I'm a clan member. But like I say, all of the Mandali played a major role and they had a lot in my formation. But today we're remembering Eruch, and I just want to say, there's nothing like that feeling of pricelessness, a feeling that you belong in a community. People recognize your inner longings and feelings and what you're striving for, and it always seemed to be missing for me in the world. That whatever you do, and even if you get accomplished and successful, it just seemed that if you're like an odd man out without having that sense of belonging or fitting, it always felt uncomfortable. And I'm saying, I think for many of us, you don't have to move and live in India to have that feeling. That the feeling that Eruch gave to all of us of participating in a story that's bigger than us. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because I want to share in 1999, right before the millennium, Mani, who passed away a few years before, but her subscription to Time magazine would still come into the trust office. And on the cover of that Time magazine, it would say, who do you think is the man of the century? Vote now. Time magazine will declare the man of the century. Vote. So in a slightly poking way, I come in and I go, Eruch, you see what it says on Time magazine? It was what? Well, they want to know who the man of the century is. And I don't know. Would it be like, do you think it's like Einstein, all the great things he did? Would it be like Churchill, Roosevelt, great scientists, politicians? I don't know who to vote for, Eruch. Who would you vote for? And so I'm just teasing with him. I had the liberty to play around like that. And He just thinks about it, but there was a slight irritation that anybody would think that anybody except Meher Baba could be this person. So I go, what would you say, Eruch? Because they want you to write something. So it's actually Mani's Time magazine. So why don't you cast your vote, Eruch? So they had a little piece, and on the spot, he wrote this without any editing. And I just want to say, he had the gift, maybe because he said, Baba, if you want me to speak, then speak. What came out was so perfect in its, not just this writing, but in his talks with people, in his writing letters to people that some of you might have. It was incredible, the command that he had of language and how exactly, it was like, again, a shot, you want it to go in there, that's how it's going to go in. He had a perfect command of language. So on this little teasing thing, he just takes the piece of paper, and this is what he writes. Avatar Meher Baba is God in human form. Therefore, he is not only the most important person in this century, but also for time immemorial and for all time. He comes in our midst because of his compassion for his creation and for his creatures. Then he shows it to me and goes, is that okay? That's okay. I'll put a stamp on that and send it in. So it's things like that where the genius of his creativity, the ability to use language, but most of all, his ability to touch hearts is what is the overriding impression that I have. That sometimes I have literally seen this, that he would say hi or Jai Baba to somebody, but with such a love and a centered presence. I've seen people do this. Is he talking to somebody else, like as though he doesn't know me well enough to address me with that love? Like Jai Baba, whatever, however he presented it, just, you have to look, oh, he must know somebody more than me, behind me. But when I saw that a few times, I realized that he doesn't know people and their individual stories and who's married to who and where, are they divorced, are they married, who's their kids? But what he does know is their heart and the love that they are nurturing for Baba. So he would acknowledge that, and in a sense, he would talk to your higher self. And that's an incredible thing, to have somebody address you with that level of dignity. Because we just punch, jab each other, whatever our normal relationships are. But to have somebody who honors and salutes your higher self in that way, that's the best pat on the back, coach, the upliftment that you could get. There's nothing that compares to that, because in our own day-to-day grind, it's almost like a cartoon that Mitchell sent me one time in India, where there's two hand puppets talking to each other. You guys may have seen this. And one guy says, one hand puppet says to the other, sometimes I wonder if there really is a hand. And it's just like, it's like we all go through that phase, that state where we're just caught in the minutiae of our little story, and that we lose touch with the overwhelming story that there is God who is just trying to break out of his limitations in us. And I think one of the things that endeared Eruch to me, on my first trip there, was he would tell all of these stories. We would just ask him, what about God realization? And just like, I don't think anybody in the last few years would talk God realization to be like, Eruch, can you help me with my marriage? But in the early days, it was all like, Baba, how do you get to Baba? I just want to merge with Baba. And after hearing that for some weeks, I sort of thought about it, analyzed it, and I said to Eruch, but Eruch, I don't get it. It doesn't sound like such a good deal. That you go on this hardest mission that you could imagine, way tougher than climbing Mount Everest or whatever it is, that the hardest thing in the world to do. And then when you get there, you're not there to appreciate the effort. What's the deal? It doesn't sound that good. And Eruch really liked that. Like that for those weeks, a few months that I was there after that, he would always refer to it. He goes, and somebody might ask, why do this? Why go on this journey? And he really was tickled by that. And it's, he would never really answer it. It just, just like, but it's the way, the implied thing that I always got from him, and it was almost like, as a kid, you can't understand this, that it's not like you're not going to be there to appreciate it. It's like the guy who is stopping you from appreciating it isn't going to be there. That's the deal. You are going to be there and go, oh, this is the experience. But it's sort of like in his role as also as a kindergarten teacher and a babysitter, which he did in a great way. It's just like one time I'm sitting also on that trip and just talking, and other people are saying some things, and somebody says something that, but Baba's always there to protect us. He won't, we can never get hurt as long as we believe in Baba, right, Eruch? And Eruch says something, no, he would never let you get hurt. And I just go, I mean, I'm just a kid myself, I'm just going, Eruch, these are just blanket statements that you're throwing out to people. And he just looks at me and he just says, brother, sometimes these blankets provide warmth for people. And I just saw like, what does it matter? It's just like, I want to be this guy who knows God speaks and this, and things could happen. You're a good person, but bad things happen. It's life, and life is tough. But he had that parental role of bringing that soothing balm and that love, and not to push anyone ahead of the experience of what they needed to go through. So that was great to witness a person who really knew the developmental stages that everybody needed to go through, that everybody needed their own medicine, they had their own pace of learning, and to have that level of patience was just amazing, because for myself, all of us, we have certain intolerances, but in his role that Meher Baba gave him to spread my message of love and truth was one of his orders. Help Mani, give my blessings. He had Baba's order that, or you could give my blessings, which you would do like at weddings or something, at funerals, like, Meher Baba's blessings, may they be showered upon you. It's not like just a little saying. Baba told him, you can give my blessings. So I always would tell Eruch, you got the best job in the world. It's just like, I want this job, that you could just tell about my love and truth. You know, you work with Mani, you do some stuff here, and then you just give away Meher Baba's blessings. It's the best. So, but while doing that, again, I come back to the point that he did it tirelessly and without any consideration for self. So A story that comes to mind is that in 1976, on October 16th, which is New Life Day, Eruch is talking in Mandali Hall, like he always would talk on Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Those days he would go into the trust office on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Thursday he would speak in the hall, and on Saturday and Sunday. Friday was their day off to do personal things. And at that time, the buses would get there at 11 in the morning, and people would roll out at 6 in the evening. So that's a lot of programming to do, to share with different people. And just like, for me, it was just saying, oh, I want to talk about an hour of Eruch. I'm just going, ooh, let me take down some notes. Here is Eruch, just shows up, sits on the floor, you know, again, Baba, if you want me to speak, then speak, although he doesn't say that out loud. And he would just say, whatever you want, Baba, let's let that unfold. So this day, in 1976, on October 16th, he starts talking about Baba, and he starts leaning a little bit this way, and I don't want to lose the mic here, but as he leans over, somebody says, Eruch, are you okay? No, I'm okay. No, are you all right? And he goes, let me just tell this story while laying down on your lap. And people in the hall just thought I wasn't there. I was coming a few weeks after that. People thought, who were there and told me just, they knew that something was wrong with Eruch, like the kind of respect that he had and the way he taught other people to say, like if you sit, don't sit with your legs stretched out towards Baba. That's considered disrespectful. That Eruch would not just casually just lay down on somebody's lap and say, let me finish this story to you. It was just like something was going on. And so somebody, actually my friend Glenn McGreeny, ran in to see Dr. Goher, and she comes and checks out Eruch, and she goes, he had a heart attack. And they had to call an ambulance and bring him to Pune, and he had to recover there for over a month. But when I heard about that, it just like, what amazed me was that here is somebody having a heart attack to the point that this Eruch is really a strong man and the most willful person I knew of, just willpower, that for him, in Baba's presence, because it's not like he's not thinking, this is Baba's chair, for him, he would always introduce, this is Baba, point to the chair. Did you greet Baba? And sometimes it'd be awkward for me initially, like they go, it's the chair, Eruch. It's just like, I don't want to become a furniture worshiper. He goes, no, I tell you, he's there. It's just like, until you can really honor that and respect that, you just sort of feel like forced into it. But he would always, when he'd walk by the chair, just salute, bow down, that whether it was a representation or he really saw Baba there, because twice a day, in the morning and in the evenings, it was Eruch's routine that he would go into Mandali Hall and, in his words, now I will be with Baba. Like, okay, you guys have to go. Like, you do whatever, have tea, play around, have jokes, but okay, now I'm going to Baba. And it was always like a sacredness that, let's say, any other time that you're in the hall with Eruch, hey, you could have some fun. But this was like, you couldn't even dream opening the door or something. It just like, it was beyond approachability. That's how I was just like, wow. So whether, and I had the Yiddish word, the chutzpah, to ask Eruch about anything, but I felt it was out of bounds for me to ask him what happens when he's with Baba. Like, do you see Baba? Does he talk to you? But so he would do that for half an hour each day, and did that till the end. Finally, when he was getting older, he couldn't stand that long, so he would just be there for a little while, but just every day till his dying day, he was with Baba. So I'm just saying that he was willing to die obeying the order of sharing Meher Baba's story of love and truth. That sense that, what does it matter? My life is not my own. And not even to flinch for your own pain. Somebody get a doctor. Hey, I'm dying in here. That so many things that happen, like once in a while, maybe somebody could do something that's heroic, way beyond themselves, but to repeatedly see a person, but not just like this thing with a heart attack, and just like how he met a stranger, how he dealt with each paper clip, you know, in the office, where I would say, Eruch, what paper clip falls to the floor? I go, Eruch, leave it alone, they'll get it. The people are going to, no. That not to waste anything, just how efficient he was in doing his work. And whatever he did, it was a man who was present in his actions. So a couple of weeks after he had his heart attack, I heard about it in Chicago, and I was, not because of him, but I was on my way to India anyway. And I stopped in Pune, where he was at his mother's house, at a place that Baba visited a lot, a place called Bindra House. And he's just sitting out there. It's like after work with the pilgrims, he just would wear these. He was the first, way before the surfers, he had these long shorts that he wore. And sometimes if it was slightly chilly, he'd wear a t-shirt, but he really liked to just be with just those shorts on, and just very comfortable, and just, that was sort of like a family get-up. And I come and I see him and just ask him how he's doing, and he's okay, better, healing, by Baba's grace, and everything's always the Baba, by Baba's grace. His will, I go, but Eruch, you're going to be okay? His will be done. And so I didn't know at that time. That was my second trip there. I'm 22 years old. And I cared so much about him and felt this connection, but I didn't know how to actually approach the subject. And just like a little boy, I said, Eruch, can I stay here with you and just help out in any way possible? And he just, it was sweet, but with like a smile, he just says, no, go to Baba, go to him first. And that was always a theme that he stressed for everyone, that whoever I am only a slave of the Lord, and don't confuse me with him. And some of my friends, because of the love they have for Eruch, and they go, wow, do you think he was a perfect master, or whatever, different head things that you could spin around, that I honestly have no clue who he was, except a perfect man. He lived a life that showed me and all of us what is possible in the realm of our humanness. And if he had spiritual status, whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, Baba said some incredible things about Eruch. That he said, in all my advents, it's a good line, right?
Come on in.
Okay. He said, in all my advents, nobody has ever served me like Eruch has served me now. And another line that I only found out after he died, that Alava comes out a couple of days after Eruch passed away, and we're just reminiscing, because it's just like, while Eruch was alive, there was no fan club of just saying, wow, he did this or that. And then Oliver just comes out one day and he goes, Baba told us one day, Eruch is the life of the new life. Oh, wow. And in a sense, it was a time that Eruch really flourished. He told some of us one day we were talking, he said about his early days with MeherBaba, that he was sort of an automatic pilot. He goes, I was like a robot. Whatever needed to be done, he would just do it. And I just go, what do you mean? He goes, whatever. It's just like, there was no thinking about myself. Am I comfortable, uncomfortable, or do I need sleep, or do I need to eat? I go, but you did eat, didn't you, Eruch? And he thought about it. He went back and he goes, Hindu would ring the bell, and I'd go eat. And he was describing a state that almost like must-like, of an experience where I think it was too hard for me to believe that it was Eruch, who we know as this ultra-rational being, and this guy who, by the time he came into our life, was a fully formed, perfectly sculpted Michelangelo David of a figure that that he was describing himself in that way. And it just implied like there was some kind of a shaping and how Baba worked on him. And I go, and then what happened? He goes, well, then I came back to myself. And I go, how long did it last? And he said about 10 years. So he came in 1938. And so in 49, they start the new life. And I think it's at that time that Eruch becomes the predominant male companion, that in the new life, when they walk, Baba and Eruch are walking together. The women are either walking or being drawn in the caravan, the new life caravan. And whatever, I think it was the 22 men are just marching behind the women. And I think, although he never liked to make the story about him, that there was a strike in the new life that Dr. Ghani led, and it was based on Eruch getting preferential treatment. Like, how come he's got the good life and we're just the schleps behind him? Baba had to deal and appease that situation, but it's like, at that time, the others started to see that I don't think he got preferential treatment as like he got better food or anything, but he had the Lord and the avatar with him, that he became the companion of God, and that Baba chose to have him by his side. And that's a beautiful aspect that, although I think there was so much intimacy in the relationship that Eruch had with Baba, very rarely did that come out, that he would almost, for the most part, use self-deprecating stories about how he didn't know how to love Baba. Like most of us heard of him saying, Baba asking him, do you love me? Calls him over, gets a chair, sit down, I want to ask you something. Do you love me? I don't know, Baba, do I love you? I don't know. He goes, no, do you love me? He goes, I don't know, Baba. And as he was telling the story to me, I remember asking Eruch, I go, you're with this guy doing things that are just unbelievable and you don't know if you love him? I go, did you know what love was? And he goes, of course I did. I go, if he asked you, do you love your mother? What would you say? He goes, yes, I love my mother. So it was astounding that he's saying to Baba, that I don't know if I love you. And so Baba, and then what he says is just so like revealing in a funny way. He goes, and Baba says, just kiss me. And he's saying that in his mind, he's thinking, who is this guy? Is he like an old man who needs love? What is he doing asking me to kiss him? It was sort of like embarrassing about Baba, like he's a needy man. But yet he turns the tables and tells that story of how compassionate the Lord is, that in my arrogance, in my haughtiness, that I'm this strong figure, I could do whatever you want done, and I have these strong shoulders and back, and this pen that writes. But I don't know if I love you. That how in all of his stories on reflection on the past with Baba, that one of his great lines is, he says, I'm just beholden to him for taking me in, accepting me, and nurturing me while I had all of this arrogance inside of me, that yet he kept me by his side. And so when I would go like, but Eruch, you did great things. And he said to me, he goes, I didn't do anything. If he gave you one of those love glances, you have no idea what you would do. And so I always really took that to heart, is that we don't know. It's just like, in a sense, we don't have that same motivational force. And granted that Eruch is in a league of his own and lived a story that is incomparable, but I would complain to Eruch that we don't have Baba like you have him to establish that inner link with Baba, the guiding force of the universe, and saying, now, Baba, if you want me to speak, then speak. It is a different story than those people like Eruch and the other Mandali who lived with the God-man, MeherBaba. And the story of that man, I know for me, the movie, the book of MeherBaba is written by Eruch in my head, that he is the major contributing force of who MeherBaba was. I mean, there's other stories we read, we hear things, but even Eruch's brother Merwan, I go, Merwan, like Eruch remembers these stories from 60 years ago. How accurate are they? Like, you were in some of these things. What do you think? It's just like, what level does all of us do a little tweak, exaggeration, or have a selective memory? And Merwan says to me, even Baba was amazed at the memory that Eruch had. That, he goes, when Baba would have him repeat stories, he goes, oh, Baba himself would say, oh, I forgot that. Good that you remember. And some of the stories that we hear, like let's say of people like Rick Chapman or Robert Dreyfuss, both of them I've heard them say that after they came out with a meeting with Baba, whatever it might be, 15 minutes or so, and just Eruch would escort them out and say, so do you remember what happened? And they go, yeah, I remember. And he goes, what happened? He goes, well, I went in and Baba said hi and I embraced him, and then he said, do you want water or whatever? And he goes, no. He asked you to sit down, he asked you about your family, where did you come from? And he would narrate to him, scene by scene, word by word, the whole story, and then sat with them and they wrote it down because they would not have remembered it the way that he did. So that perfect camcorder or microphone in his ears, what he recorded, he was the living witness of the advent of Meher Baba. The person who Meher Baba is, I think, will live through those images that were recorded by Eruch. There's, of course, Meher Baba, our beloved Lord, that, we have as God Speaks, the discourses, books that came out, the God of the God-man, I don't think will be lost in any way. But that personalness, what I think fuses us into a community in a sense of bonding, is that people in this room have an affinity for that man who was Meher Baba. And not just God, because it's just like I hear people talk about God sometimes in way more loving terms than I hear within my own community of Meher Baba. I mean, somebody could be a Catholic or a Buddhist or whatever, just like they're talking about the same God. It's not like, but it has an impersonalness to it. And although in my youth, I'd want to just, ooh, did you hear about Baba? Or just share Baba. Now, you just know that their own alarm clock has to ring whenever it has to ring, and we don't push Baba on people. But that fascination of that story with the man, and if he didn't have any teeth, how did he eat? What did he use for a toothpaste? And how did he sleep? And what did he do? And was he tough? Was he soft? That picture was so beautifully painted and sculpted, whatever artistic imagery we use, by Eruch for us. And, just a few minutes ago I used the word Michelangelo. He is the Michelangelo of this advent of creating the artwork of the beauty of the human side of God, of Meher Baba. I'm just going to take a breather on that for a second, because it takes me to such a space of self-reflection that my own thankfulness and gratefulness now that I have that in my life. All of us have that. The experience of somebody who lived with that greatest being of all time and sharing with that story with us personally, more than ever now, I feel thankful and appreciative that how this little guy, Gary, somehow wound up in a place where I could have been touched, mentored, helped by a person of that stature. Now that he is not alive, there's like a dreamlike quality, just like when my mom passed away almost 9 years ago, and you're just like, wow, she had so much love, but it's gone. It just fizzes away into time. That when I came to India, maybe 4 or 5 years after Baba passed away, some of you in '69 or Adele even earlier met Baba, but when I was first hearing stories about Baba, they were so fresh off the grill on the Meher Baba storyline that here I am now saying, wow, tomorrow Mera will have been dead for 13 years. So I'm thinking, when we got there, and I'm thinking, I remember Mera really well. I remember little things she did. So these folks who lived a life of total obedience and dedication to Baba, what those few years after he passed away, how fresh they were and how much they wanted to share and how much they felt it was their job to do. It just chokes me up that I was honored to have that opportunity. And I want to share one little thing. It's mostly on Eruch, but I remember today this little incident about Go Hair. When I was there as a 20-year-old, they used to call me Peppy Kleiner. I had a lot of energy, and I wish I get that same energy back one way or another. But I had energy. And I used to race on those little Indian funky bikes that have no speeds, like a rickshaw from Meherazad to town. And one time I beat the fastest rickshaw guy, and so it's November when the Indian winter starts, and I have just my little like running shorts and a sleeveless t-shirt, and Go Hair comes out. I change in the bathroom there, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And it's 6 o'clock at night, so it's evening and it's cool, and she goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm gonna ride the bike back." She goes, "You're gonna catch a cold. What are you dressed like this for?" And she was just like, "What are you, an idiot?" And I sort of wanted to appease the old lady, like, "Hey, I'm just riding my bike. What's the big deal?" So I say to her, "Oh, Go Hair, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's just like, if you suffer a little bit, if I take on a little bit of suffering, what's the big deal? We all have to suffer. And if I catch a cold with this, it doesn't matter." And she looked at me like I said, like, the stupidest thing in the world. And it's a life lesson that will stay with me, because she never goes heavy and like points a finger, but she put a finger in my chest and she says, "The suffering that Baba gives us has meaning. The suffering that you take on yourself has absolutely no meaning." And I still rode my little funky t-shirt, but I remember it was so much bigger than that bicycle ride, I always come back to that, wow, this self-inflicted misery that I take on and we as human beings put on our head and burden ourselves and think that it's wiping off some samskaras or whatever is our play of our mind. It's absolutely meaningless. Just take the suffering that Baba gives you, and that is what's wiping your slate clean. So, I want to share another little thing. At that time when I would ride the bicycle out of there, I don't know if any of you have had this experience, but this is like in the 70s. I'd be ready to leave Meherazad at 6 o'clock at night and just stand by my bike, and before getting on, I just look around and just feel so high on MeherBaba, the stories that I heard, or whatever, on a cellular level, just being filled, and just the body just feeling alive, and just great, the sensation that, I don't even want to reduce it by saying anything, that there's no intoxicants, there's nothing, take the garbage away, there's no feeling like that in the world, where you just go, where everything in you just feels good. There's maybe it's the youthful thing, but it was way beyond youth, because that need to hear about Baba, and it was like a pitcher getting filled up mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that to just stand there and just really, without saying, "Thank you, Baba, for being alive," without screaming anything out, that sensation of being high, and then that's the only word that I could use to describe that. It was, it's a phenomenal feeling. And I remember people used to say something like, "Well, you get on a honeymoon with Baba," and because I just got married and we're having a delayed honeymoon to go to Italy. But it's like, at that time I used to think, what do you mean honeymoon? If you feel this is what you're going to feel forever. But it's not forever. Work begins, and just like when I found out about Baba, I remember I was in Berkeley, California, and I just saw some films of Baba, and an inner voice said, "Your search is over, and now your work will begin. And what do you mean? What's the work? Well, it wasn't my own voice, and it scared me a little. But actually, today I could say, wow, work is whether, whatever you guys did at the center here, just work is effort. Searching could actually be a fun deal, and it's like, searching has a certain sex appeal about it. It's like, ooh, it's wooey. Let me tell you, I just went to Tibet. Ooh, I was in China last year. Oh, this is phenomenal. But when you connect with Baba and you find your wall of where you're at, and then work from there to inch your way across, not fly, that's the effort that we put in. And it was a breeze, I have to say, while watching Eruch and being with him. It was so enjoyable to just be in this person's company, because it seemed that everything that radiated around him was fun, that people were happy, that, it's like he was a center of attention where he wanted to be on good behavior, but bring in good stories, share things, and you knew that, let's say, the things that cheered him up or really lit up his heart were stories, just like he would ask in Mandalay Hall of, so brother, how did you come to Baba? And that, he doesn't care if you made a killing on the stock market or what this or whatever the different stories of life are, but things that touch the heart. So to be in that kind of a company that cultivated that, I am being editorial when I say that it's what I need today in a whole new way, but being an adult now and having to provide it in my own story, share it with my friends, because those people who were the leaders and the torchbearers in that story, like Eruch, and why we're remembering him for the race that he ran, he's gone. Pretty soon, all of those people who lived an intimate life with Meher Baba will be gone. And we become those torchbearers. We become the vessels that share the love with each other, others, humanity that wants to hear about Meher Baba, but it's a responsibility. And like I said before, that guy who ran behind Eruch in that little vision thing, and just, no, I don't want to pick up the flag. Now I feel the weight and responsibility of that, and without any pressure to do any big things, except to live my own life in my own truth. I want to share a great turning point Eruch story with me. When I came to India to live, I was just 24 years old, and the way I got to stay at Meherazad, well, first I came to India and I had a meeting with Eruch, Mani, Rano, Bhal, it's like the official staff of the trust, and I go, okay, I'm here, I'm like reporting for duty. And Eruch took the lead and he just says, we know that you're very bright. You're like a bright light. But sometimes it's too dazzling for us to see. So what we would like you to do is to cover up that light so it doesn't blind any of us. And let us feel the warmth of it. We don't really want to see it so much. I go, okay. And he just, on the spot, because he doesn't have this rehearsed with any lines, he says, we know that you came here to serve those who serve the Lord. But what we would like you to do is to serve those who came to serve those who serve the Lord. And I'm going like, Alan and Erica? I gotta become their servant? And really speaking, if I would have listened to him, my life would have been a lot easier. Because he was giving me tips of how to blend in a community and just offer your help to others. And just say, hey, oh, you guys are putting up chairs? Yeah, let me help you with the chairs. Hey, what can I do with this? But I always felt like, no, I just want to do what I want to do. Why? I'm not a chair guy. Why would I do chairs? Somebody else does chairs. So actually, that led me to some trouble, which I'm going to share. But so I stayed at the Dalat first before I got a place to stay at Meherabad. And some days would go by. I thought Eruch and Mani would call me in and say, Gary, here are duties. You've given up your life in America, and now you're here. Here is what we have in mind for you. And days would go by, a few weeks go by. Nobody's calling me in. And it's just like one day I come by the trust office, and the car was about to leave from a work day. And Eruch looks at me. Once in a while he'd get stern, but in a powerhouse way. He goes, where were you? I'm just waiting for you guys to tell me what to do. I just sort of feel embarrassed that I showed up here and I don't even know if you know that I'm here. He goes, we know you're here. But I didn't know if you wanted me to come around. And sort of like a mafia guy, he grabs me and he pushes me on the hood of the car. It's just like, it was such a strong gesture. And he goes, you come here, even if we kick you out of here, you just show up. And I just thought, wow. Just because in a sense, he's telling me, no matter what happens here, it's like, there's going to be rough patches. You came here out of a calling for MeherBaba, and don't be this little crybaby. Is it okay? Can I sit here? Just show up. And so things happened, and I got an opportunity. There wasn't many things going on at Meherabad at the time, and the Pilgrim Center wasn't even open. And they conceived of a job for me, which was to watch the night watchman of the Pilgrim Center of a building that isn't even open yet. So I go, what's the job? So I ask Eruch, so he says, get up every hour to see and make sure that he's not sleeping. But the only stuff that's in the building is mine. That's all I can take. And as most of you know, it's built like a fortress. The gates are all locked. That the only way somebody could get in is if they rappel in over the top of the building. So it was a little bit embarrassing because, number one, I didn't want to get up every hour. It was just like I'd be losing my sleep. But so I'd come into the office, I'd just show up in the office, and Eruch, just like boom, on cue, would just say, so, is the night watchman staying awake? And I go, yeah, Eruch, yeah, he is. And tell him not to sleep. I go, no, yeah, he doesn't sleep. And it just like, this would happen day after day. And it was just like sort of great on me because I wasn't negligent in the sense that there's anything missing in the Pilgrim Center, but they told me the job consists of waking up every hour and telling the night watchman not to sleep. So once in a while when I'd get up to pee, I'd look over and the night watchman's sleeping, but I felt awkward at waking him up, and I'm going to tell you why, because I found out about this guy. His name was Keru, and he was a real old guy, so this is 1978, so during World War II, he was taken by the British because he was such a strong man, and he was like a wrestling champion. He went to Italy. This is a guy from Erngam village, and he beat like the Italian wrestling champion. He was, hero. And whenever Padre, the manager of Meherabad, needed some big, strong workers, 10 guys, they say, this is the myth of Keru, couldn't move like an engine, but Keru would come there, move this engine into place in one of his engine rooms for the wells. So he had like, now he must be in the 70s, whatever their polygamous style, or what. I hear he had 5 wives, like 20 children, 50 grandchildren, and all this stuff, and I'm this 24-year-old guy, so Eruch just kept asking me, day after day, so, is the night watchman sleeping? I go, no, Eruch, he's good, and then he just, is the night watchman sleeping? And I could not, after some point, face myself, and just mirrored by Eruch, and later I realized, how does he know that he's sleeping? But every night watchman in India is sleeping. It's not like he knew about this guy. That's what they do. So one day, it's just like I broke a little bit, and I go, well, he's sleeping a little bit, Eruch, but mostly he's staying awake. Tell him not to sleep. And so 2 months go by like this, and Eruch, I come into the office, he goes, so is the night watchman sleeping? I go, Eruch, this guy is about 75 years old. He worked for Padre all of these years. He was the strong arms of Meherabad that moved stuff, created stuff at Meherabad. He's a guy who was so strong that he beat the Italian wrestling champion. He's got like 5 wives, 20 kids, 50 grandchildren. I go, who am I to tell him not to sleep? And Eruch, just like he went a boxer, face to face, and he goes, find out who you are, and then tell him not to sleep. And the beauty of that was it just like, whoever you are, this little 24-year-old little pisher guy that can't figure out, no, let him sleep, he's got this and that in his concept, Baba brought me here, he gave me a job, and if you don't know how you came here, how you got this job, you better find out, because your job is to tell this man not to sleep, not to be better than him, stronger than him, like lord over as a little guy. Hey, I'm telling you, hey, I'm the boss here. But this is your role. This is how you got on this team. And I wasn't, I was staying in a little funky hotel called the Dowlot before they brought me in and made me a part of the team with that job. So just like, I would then, in my own way, would just go to Keru, please don't sleep, okay, tonight? That it was still awkward to just go, Keru, I'm sleeping, But I learned and often return to that little anecdote. It's just like, in so many ways, it applies to all of us, that find out who you are and then fill in the blank of whatever it is, like why I got this child to raise, why I got this, or whatever it is in our storylines, that this is our karma that brought us here, and that's what Eruch wanted me to look in the mirror and to face. Well, another story of Eruch's battle with me is that when in the first 9 months, sort of my gestation period at Meherabad, I would always want to do things a little bit differently, and differently was not that bad. It's just like Adi Keirani, Baba's secretary, who was alive at that time, he would hold nightly God Speaks classes, and I would say to Padre Kaka, I'm going tonight to Adi's God Speaks class. But Padre was like a guy, you go to bed at 9:30, you wake up at 5:30, and Meherabad is a certain way, and I'd leave at about 9 o'clock after dinner and come back at like 1 in the morning, and it wasn't like goofing off, like pretending to go to God Speaks class and having a beer or something. I went to Adi's God Speaks classes, but I would do things that some people at Meherabad felt was like not the right way. It was just like, this is the way of the ashram. And And definitely I had my own arrogance and style that wanted to push and provoke. It's not like I'm a clean player that's misunderstood. I had my own ego that wanted to peacock, strut its storyline, and would get into some of these combative situations, but push came to shove, and some people were complaining about me and just brought stories that would come into Eruch's ears. I don't know if he's good for this community, or just whatever stuff gets mumbled around. And I get a message that Eruch is calling me in to the office, to the trust office, to talk to me. And I felt really awkward because two things. I felt he could see right through me, and he actually had, I used the words at that time, the power to disintegrate me. That whatever my ego structure, whatever it is, that he could just like bat me, like squash me like a little fly, that I can't hold my own against him. He lets me play and do my razzle-dazzle little games, but when he comes in like a laser beam, I can't really hold my own. So I knew that push was coming to shove, and he was going to ask me, like, what's going on? What's going on with your life? What's going on with the community? What's all this that I hear? And I just come in with sort of a fake game face onto the office, and came in at a time when Mani and Rano and others were going off to eat lunch in the lunchroom, and Eruch didn't eat lunch. He would just have limbu pani, lemon water. And I'm coming in, and I come into the office there, and I pick up one of the books where Mani would have people take group photos, and just like from this week and that, and just looking, oh, nice photos. Just sitting there, like, pretending to be really casual. What? Talk about what? What are you doing? I don't even know what's going on. And but he hits that truth and honesty, and sort of like a voice of a little boy just goes out, goes, yeah, I want to talk. And I'm going, why'd you say that? It was like I betrayed myself. And just like, are you an idiot? And just like, I got like no willpower. So like a kid who peed in his pants or something, he couldn't hold it. And so without him asking me to, I move over to the desk instead of keeping this separation, this gulf that we have. I walk over towards his desk and just sit down, but like in that one line, he cracked me. All of a sudden, my body language, this guy, he's just real humble, is just sitting there. And just says, so, are you completely disillusioned now? And so I come back with a little bit of energy and just cleverness. I go, well, Eruch, it depends on how you look at it, because disillusionment could be actually a good thing. It could mean that you're getting rid of your illusions. But I knew I was being flippant with that, and then I just said, but maybe you mean, am I so hurt and disappointed in what's happening in my life here that I want to leave? And he goes, that's what I mean. And I just stop, and I feel that, and I go, no, I'm not. Because in my most far-out moments, I thought, wow, if I'm like disruptive in the community, maybe I could go back to the Dowlad or somewhere, just like, I want to be a part of this life. But I'm stepping on a lot of toes, but I didn't think of like leaving to go back to the States or something, so I said, no, I'm not. And he just gets up from around the desk, and as he stands up, it was just the natural inclination, I get up, and he comes over to me in that hug that I described, that we all know. He just comes over to me, and in that bear hug of just total acceptance, but this was way more than just like, hi, Jay Baba, welcome to Meherazad, the next person. He just held me there, and as he squeezes hard, I mean, I can just feel it right now, he says to me, good, proud of you. And when he said that, the Niagara Falls of my eyes and my being, I mean, this has never happened in my life. I started crying uncontrollably because I feel what he implied in that is that as maybe a father, mentor figure, the man of the house, he was checking in with me to see if I'm on the ropes and about to go down. And when he saw and he heard me honestly that I wasn't leaving, that I'm taking the shots, but I'm in the game, he gave me some kind of backing and support, but not the kind of backing that says, hey, if anybody gives you trouble, just tell them, hey, tell them to mess with me. Just like he wasn't taking over the fight, but he lent me love and support to know that he knows what's going on, and some things, things happen. Bickering, somebody will say this and that I just want to know that you could stand up and meet this opposition. But what it also did for me is that in the long run, I felt that he was giving me deep, deep support and his love to want to continue to stay there. Like he did not want me to leave there. So it's not like I became arrogant, but to know and have that sort of in your side pocket that Eruch loves me and he wants me to stay, that it changed the whole story. But to come back to that moment where I start crying, and because of that acceptance, and that's, oh my God, it's just like I thought everybody thinks I'm a schmuck, but no, this guy says he loves me. And I start crying. And it's a little bit embarrassing because it just seems like, wow, it's just like, okay, I have this. And I'm just staying on in his arms. So maybe 15, 20 seconds pass. And in Baba's timing, the guy who's now the driver of the Meherazad car, this man Ramdas, runs in. He works also at the trust office and goes, Gedi-san, Bauji is calling you. He wants to see you right away. I go, what? And I'm in this moment of just, I can't stop crying. And I go, no, I can't. I'm saying, no, I can't go. But Eruch says, go ahead. Bao is calling you. And I look at him, and even though I'm crying, I sort of laugh, like, how could I go like this? It looks like somebody who's like a battered person or something. And I get to the office, and he's there with the accountant because one of the jobs besides watching after the overnight watchman, one of the other jobs a little bit later that I got was to keep the accounts for the Pilgrim Center, not like now for people who come and stay, but for the building, the paying the workers, and Ted Judson, who was doing the architecture and building. For him, it was really tedious to do all of that book work, and for me, it was sort of easy, and so I would do that. But Bauji wanted to tell me that, well, no, you see, well, this account is this. Well, if we pay salaries, that's different than if we buy these materials, and if we do this, and if you give them a loan, put it as an advance column over here. So he's giving me technical tips on accounting with the head accountant of the trust. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening. I go, no, of course, yeah. Well, if we do payroll, yeah, we'll do this, we'll bifurcate that. And I'm being ultra rational because something broke in me. But for the half-hour meeting that I had, I was crying uncontrollably. Just like, so I didn't have a handkerchief. And I mean, literally to a point like, they're looking at me, they're talking, they're seeing this man is clear, and he's to the point of what, he's on the same page as us on the work stuff, but like, what's going on? And Bob would look at him. Yeah, Bob, yeah, we'll do that. No, if you want, yeah. This guy, yeah, we can do. Well, the part-time workers, we don't even have to have them on the register over here. We'll do this out of petty cash. And the meeting ends, like I said, at least 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour, and Bob, as we're walking out, he goes, what happened, Getty? No, Bauji, it's okay. No, tell me. I go, Bauji, really, it's okay. And he goes, no, really? I go, Bauji, I'm really okay. And it was that release from Eruch that gave me that okay, that to be who I am, in a sense, just in this storyline, I don't want to give any specialness to myself, honestly, because, like I say, Baba's the hero in this story. Eruch really lived to serve him. I was just lucky to be a hang-around guy. But in that story that I just said, it gave me the strength and fortitude to be there for almost 25 years that I've been there now. That without that support, I would have been more a leaf in the wind, and stuff that would have happened, the turbulence that happens in all of our stories, different places, and whether we really have a sense of belonging or not. I could have been bowled over. And I have to thank Eruch for giving me that life raft, but he is also the person who in a lot of ways forged me for who I am and what I became. That sometimes he would just, in Mandalay Hall or something, call on me, do this, hey Gary, tell him that story. And it would be a little funny and funky, and people would have some reactions. But and one time I went to Eruch and just said, but Eruch, it's not easy. It's just like, you asked me to do these things, and you know, some people, that's a grating personality for some people. They really have reactions with that. It's just like, I'm not really comfortable with that. And he never used the word I. He would always say the word we. And I always thought it meant like him, mine, Meherazad. But later on I realized it's just him. So when he said we about me, it's just him. So he would say, but we like that, Gary. And I go, oh, everybody does? No! He liked it. That he liked to play around, and it was a release for him. And let me just check, what's our time? I gotta close here in a second or two. Wow. Wow, it's funny. I had these notes, and then you start getting into a rap, and just naturally you remember things that you don't even need notes for. I'd like to share a little bit, just a few words about when Eruch was passing away, or from the time that he became weak and you knew that it was his last year or whatever. He never wanted to be a burden on anybody. That to the end, he lived a life where if he became burdensome, he felt it's better to die and not have anyone take care of him. So here is a person who took care of MeherBaba, the household of Meherazad, and all the pilgrims who came there. But how he struggled with becoming weak and sort of invalid at the end was a remarkable thing to see. And I have to say that I was lucky that I got to help out a little bit. That, you know, just Eruch, you're just walking into Mandalay Hall, here, take this arm, just walk in, just sit down and do whatever little things to be of help to him with a little bit of amusement. But he never complained about his pain. He put up with a myriad of diets, ideas, vitamins, different things, that because people loved him so much, everybody wanted to come in with a magic cure, a pill, or a massage, or an acupuncture, which, you know, which he didn't like, but let's say some of the things, but he would just put up with everything because the love that it was given with, and it'd be amazing for the few people who could see how weak he was when somebody in a doctoring position would show up, how he would rise to the occasion, like the stories that he would say about Baba, that, oh, how are you? Like some people flew in to treat him. He said, no, it must have been such a tiring journey. How are you? Did you rest? Are you sleeping? No. Get them some water, do something. That he would become the host and the caregiver, which was just so amazing to see. A person who later on would just go, so I just want to just leave. Baba, and he would say sometimes, Baba, Baba, why are you doing this to me? And I'd go, but Eruch, you're just old. It's just your body. It's like, Baba's not doing this to you. And he said, one time he said, no, he is. I go, why? He said, I was so arrogant when I was young. All these things that I did, I thought that only I could do them. The strength that I had, and although I gave it for him and his work, I was so proud and arrogant of the things that I did. And now he's telling me, so, where's your strength now? So, till his last day, he was reinterpreting the messages that he was getting from Baba and how to fine-tune and clean up his game. Whereas I always thought, Eruch, you're the best player of all time. What do you need to work out and keep in shape for? You're way above everybody else. But he showed us that that's how you stay at that peak level, that constantly you're going to Baba, that you're constantly taking to heart whatever messages are being sent to you. So he had so much dignity in those last months of his life. I wanted him to know that I came into his room in a few months before he died, and when he was alone, I didn't want to say it in person. This is personal about me and MeherBaba. We became engaged, and I walk into his room, I knock first, and he goes, who is it? I go, it's Gary. And he goes, what is it? Because I knew at that time he just has a few minutes alone where he could just be weak and just sit in his chair. I go, Eruch, I really hate to bother you, but I just wanted to share something with you. And he goes, what? I go, Eruch, I'm going to be here with you for the rest of your life, whatever as long as that takes. But sometime in the future, I want to marry MeherBabaLibrary. And it's so funny because he's such a perfect listener, like he feeds back, like that, and he goes, the way he heard it, he goes, marry MeherBabaLibrary. Did she consent to this? I go, yeah. I go, yeah, she did. And her family was there before. I said, I talked to her family, and it's okay, Eruch. He goes, how will you support her? Will your brother give you a job? Because my brother's a well-to-do guy in Chicago or whatever. I don't know, Eruch, if my brother's going to give me a job, but I think we'll do okay. It's going to be taken care of. Don't worry about that. So he says, but don't wait on my account. If you want to marry her now, go now. I go, no, Eruch, she went back. She has to finish the Art Institute. I'm here. It's not like there's a tug of war and I feel I'm out of place. It's fine, Eruch. It's great. We're happy to be here now. He goes, good. And I say one more thing, and this was the tender thing. I go, Eruch, I really want to tell you that in this union of Mehera and myself, we're going to be stronger in Baba and with Baba. We're going to be a stronger team for Baba. And he just tries, it was actually hard, he needed help, but he couldn't stand up out of the chair, so I just come to him, and he just grabs me again, and one of my little themes of today of just having that hug from Eruch, and he just holds me there, and this time, because acknowledging that love, and what he's acknowledging is the strength in Baba, that the union makes you stronger, and he just goes, I'm so happy to hear that. And the next day, when we walk him out, sometimes we would watch like the Ramayana, different things on the TV, and I'm kidding with him, and I say, but Eruch, are you really happy for me to be married? Do you give me your blessings? Like I said, because he has the power to give blessings. And he goes, of course. I want to see you settled. And it was such a parental, fatherly thing that whatever it was, this jumping being that he looked after, but that, in a sense, that settling will come through this storyline and this union. And at other times, some of you heard me say this, that the thing that brought me to India, the decision to be there for Baba, but also to be mentored with Eruch, was the first decision of my life. It's like, up till then, as a kid, growing up in Europe, coming to America, whatever I did, it was like I was riding the coattail of other people's decisions. But to move to India, to Meherabad, was my first decision. And I say that marrying Mehera is now the second decision of my life. And I hope, and I'm concluding with this, that just like we said in the vows of our marriage, that we are on a spiritual journey together, that whatever that story brings forth to us, family, wherever we live, whatever we do, I hope in the memory of Baba, Eruch, that lineage and continuation of being beholden to Baba, to living a life to the degree that it's possible, to be dedicated to Baba, that I hope my story in our connectedness allows me and us to live that, because without Eruch as a flag bearer, it's a lot harder for me to stand. And so I hope that for all of us, we pick up that flag of truth within ourselves and live a life that would dignify and glorify the truth that we hold within us in connectedness with MeherBaba. And I just want to thank all you guys for listening to me and giving me an opportunity to remember what is really my favorite topic in my life, to remember the times and the greatness of witnessing Eruch's life and love in action. So thank you, and Jai Baba. Wait, no, I want to. I know it's late, but can we end on Ralph's song, 700 Years? Because we won't see a guy like this for 700 years. Ralph brought his guitar especially for this.